Sabrina Ibaňez, generální sekretářka Mezinárodní jezdecké federace FEI, byla jedním z milých hostů v rámci pražského General Assembly, tedy toho generálního shromáždění Mezinárodní jezdecké federace. A jsme velmi rádi, že ji máme teď u mikrofonu EquiTV. Mrs. Ibañez, welcome to Prague.
And thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you satisfied with this year's General Assembly?
Well, I'm very happy to be here in Prague, and I believe that the National Federation has done a fantastic job in organizing this General Assembly, which is very important for the European region.
Úvodní obligátní otázka samozřejmě na úvod. Ptal jsem se na spokojenost paní Ibaňez s tímto zasedáním. Říkala, že to bylo skvělé být v Praze. Pochválila Českou jezdeckou federaci jako organizátora místního a celkově tedy ráda, že se vše podařilo. What is the main task of such events like the General Assembly? What are the expectations when you are coming to venues like Prague?
Well, first of all, for us it's very important. You know, the FEI is the global governing body of equestrian sport, and the EEF is the European Equestrian Federation, so it is actually all the European federations that are involved in horse sports. So it's very important for us at the FEI to hear some of the challenges that they're having, some of the projects that they're working on, and it really is a pivotal moment in the governance of our sport.
How would you rate the level of teamwork between the national federations? As you are saying, there are plenty of people here today, plenty of countries. How's the teamwork in the current equestrian scene, by your opinion?
It's excellent, actually. I mean, Europe is one of the most important regions, if not the most important regions in the equestrian world. So the cooperation that we have with the national federations in Europe and also in the global scene is really important. And for us, being here in Prague was really important as well, because we can see how dynamic the Equestrian Federation is and all the initiatives that they are doing on their own level. So it is really important. Also for us, the Czech Federation, I don't know if you are aware, but actually they've been a member of the FEI since 1927, which was just 6 years after the International Equestrian Federation was formed, so very important.
Ptal jsem se na hlavní přínos akcí, jako je toto General Assembly, a paní Ibaňez říká, že jde vždycky o sladění jednotlivých názorů, zájmů těch jednotlivých národních federací v rámci FEI, a je to velmi důležité, jak si sladit noty. Z tohohle pohledu jsou toto velmi významné akce. Ona zároveň pochválila i ten způsob, jaký momentálně národní federace v rámci FEI spolupracují. Považuje stále Evropu za nejvýznamnější region v rámci světového jezdectví a vypíchla zajímavost, kterou určitě řada z vás bude vědět, ale zopakuji, že Česká jezdecká federace, respektive její československá předchůdkyně, je členem FEI už od roku 1927, takže už nějakých 6 let po založení tohoto mezinárodního tělesa, takže patří k těm, kdo už jsou to dlouhou dobu. You have said that Europe is still the most important region in terms of equestrian sports. Where do you see the importance?
Well, the most amount of events throughout the world are actually still concentrated in Europe. We see an incredible development in the Middle East and the Americas, but normally Europe tends to be the catalyst for change as well. So it is really important to keep that communication going on with the European federations and see how we can also further help them further develop, because not all nations are at the same level. So, but again, what happens in Europe can often become a catalyst for the rest of the world.
Ptal jsem se ještě na vysvětlení toho výroku před chvílí, že Evropa je stále nejvýznamnějším regionem mezinárodní jezdecké scény. Paní Ibaňez říká ano, je to i kvůli tomu, že stále největší množství těch prestižních akcí se koná v Evropě, navzdory tomu, že některé regiony, ať už americké nebo třeba Jižní Asie, Blízký východ, zaznamenávají strmý vzestup, tak přesto je důležitost Evropy stále nejvyšší v jejich očích. I z toho hlediska, že Evropa právě dokáže být katalyzátorem změn, se tady zkoušejí novinky a samozřejmě právě z Evropy se pomáhá třeba těm méně rozvinutým národním federacím. Evropa je zkrátka stále lídr v tomto ohledu. When we now talk about this General Assembly, what were the main points that you were discussing?
So one of the most important things that they were reinforced a few times was the importance of the social license to operate when it refers to the well-being of the horse, putting the horse first, but also the sustainability, environmental sustainability. So the EEF has come up with a very interesting strategy to help national federations further their sustainability efforts. Another aspect very important that was discussed here among the members was youth and the development of youth leaders for the future, equestrian leaders of the future. So I would believe that those were the two topics that were of utmost importance.
Z těch bodů, které se projednávaly tady v rámci pražského zasedání, paní Ibaňez vypichuje dva, a to welfare, to znamená udržení si sociální licence z hlediska celého jezdeckého sportu, tedy přízeň veřejnosti, a druhý bod udržitelnost světového jezdeckého provozu. FEI přišla s konkrétní, velmi ambiciózní strategií, kterou nabízí i jednotlivým národním federacím, a tohle asi byly ty dva nejvýznamnější body. Let us talk about welfare. You have mentioned that this is a very important topic. What should be done that equestrian sports could hold their social license? So, because there's a kind of paradox that never in history were more people who are doing equestrian sports, owning horses, loving horses, but on the other hand, there are questions about a social license.
Absolutely. Well, this will happen across all levels anyways, not only in our sport. But first of all, what we have done internally is we have appointed a group of external experts, and they form the group of the Equine Ethics and Wellbeing Commission. And this commission has reached out to the community, equestrian community, but also people who are not really interested or don't even know that much about the sport, to see what and how they view and perceive the sport, and what may be some of the challenge that they see that need to be addressed. So they have come up with, I believe, 32 recommendations, or maybe it's 33 recommendations, on how to improve and what can be done internally and externally to make sure that these changes really do happen. This has been a constant touch with the community, and these recommendations are now final and will be presented to our board in Mexico during the week of the General Assembly. And then the FEI will create out of these recommendations specific action points and present how we are going to move forward with the community to ensure that on everyone's mind, always, at every time, horse first. Because without the horse, we are nowhere. And things have changed dramatically over the past years, but there is always room for improvement. And the information that we are receiving now from everyone is that everybody is on board, and they want to do what has to happen, whatever it takes, to ensure that it becomes a sustainable sport for the future, and that we maintain that social license.
Téma welfare je samozřejmě jedna z věcí, které se nejen v jezdectví, ale všeobecně v koňských sportech v posledních letech velmi zdůrazňuje. Ptal jsem se trošku i na ten paradox, že na jednu stranu ještě nikdy v historii se tolik lidí nevěnovalo jezdectví a třeba i rekreačnímu ježdění než dnes, a zároveň sport bojuje o udržení té své sociální licence, jak říká paní Ibaňez. A paní Ibaňez říká, že se řada věcí změnila v těch posledních letech. Udělal se v oblasti welfare velký posun. I tady se probíralo konkrétních 32 nebo 33 bodů, které vzešly z velkého průzkumu, kdy byla sformována etická komise a došlo ke konkrétním doporučením. Ta byla teď precizována a budou teď dál postoupena na boardu FEI a mělo by dojít ke konkrétnímu FAR plánu, časovému plánu, kdy se nějakým způsobem teď budou ty jednotlivé body detailněji řešit. Jinak samozřejmě ten základní přístup zkrátka musí být, říká paní Ibaňez, že kůň je vždy na prvním místě. To je něco, co se nejen komunikuje, ale co se už i promítá, zohledňuje do té strategie. When we are talking about the social license, I think one of the problems is that the majority of people in the society doesn't work with horses anymore. They even they have no chance to meet a horse. I saw some numbers from the World Horse Welfare Query where they said that in the UK, it's a big equine nation, only 2% of people regularly see horses. That's probably also one of the problems because I think the topic welfare, it's a different work when you are working with people who are aware of horses and how to live and work with horses, and with people who absolutely don't know.
I would agree with you. Most people don't actually realize that what is already in place to protect the welfare and put the horse first. All the rules and regulations, all the tests that are done. When you think about anti-doping and medication, we with our horses are a lot more strict than you are maybe with WADA with athletes. So there are a lot of things that people are just ignorant of because they're not involved in the day-to-day dealing with horses. So it's actually also communicating what is in place and how well treated our horses are. Of course, there's always room for improvement. That I will not deny. And it is true that, I mean, before, everybody was in touch with a horse one way or the other. And in the past 150 years, 200 years, that distance has grown, and people are not as involved as they used to be, because they had to be as well, with horses. So it is also reminding society how important the horse has been to humans, and our responsibility to horses as well. So it's also getting that message across, and they're not just beautiful. I mean, they have given us so much, and continue to give us so much, and we want to maintain that relationship with us, with them. And I think that is essential to communicate that part as well, the historic part, and also that we can and are allowed to maintain that relationship with horses.
I think there's also a perception crisis. The society is a little bit struggling what is right to do with a horse. As you are mentioning, in the history, horses were a huge help in transportation and agriculture and so on. And today, we have no tasks for the horse except sport and leisure activity. And there are plenty of people who are saying horses have to be wild somewhere and don't do anything with horses. So I think the society in general is a little bit struggling. What's the place of the horses in the 21st century? And that's something where the opinions are very different.
Absolutely. I mean, okay, there are people who believe that humans should no longer ride horses, and that they should be left out in wilderness or whatever and live their own lives. But the reality of that is, if that were to happen, we would see the number of horses decreasing considerably, as well as the breeds, and the survival rate of these horses, regrettably, would be 6 to 7 years maybe. These are some things that I have read about I can't tell you exactly if it is 6 and 7, but this is what I understand. So it is really important. We have an obligation, I believe, to keep riding these horses. And indeed, as you mentioned before, the horse had a place in society when it comes to transportation, war, everything you can imagine, and that no longer exists. And right now, as you mentioned, it's just for sport or leisure. But that is already, or equitherapy. They have also brought you see how horses actually improve war victims who have been through traumas, people with disabilities. I mean, there are so many different ways that horses continue to help us. So I believe that link should remain, and it is important. And again, it's our duty to keep that link.
Bavili jsme se teď trošku o zodpovědnosti vůbec jezdecké veřejnosti. vůči koním v 21. století, kdy na jednu stranu samozřejmě, jak paní Ibaňez říká, i v oblasti welfare a udržitelnosti je stále co zlepšovat a stále je poměrně dost úkolů, které je třeba zvládnout, ale zároveň je třeba i té širší veřejnosti začít trošku efektivněji vysvětlovat, co všechno už se podařilo a že to vůbec není tak, že by jezdecká veřejnost byla pasivní v této oblasti, ale naopak už se v oblasti welfare posunula opravdu velmi daleko. No a ta moje doplňující otázka se týkala toho, jestli na ten pohled, jestli si ta dnešní společnost v 21. století ví úplně rady vůbec, jaké místo koní, protože dříve měli klíčovou roli v dopravě, v zemědělství, v armádě a tak dále, to všechno pominulo. Paní Ibaňez přesně potvrzuje, jsou různé názorové proudy, někdo třeba tvrdí, že by koně vůbec neměli být ježděni, ale pokud bychom koně vypustili do přírody, zaprvé by to vedlo k velkému poklesu jak plemen, tak vůbec počtu koní a zároveň i vůbec by klesala možnost dožití těch koní. Existují průzkumy, že v divoké přírodě možná 6-7 let by se takovýto koně dožívali. Zkrátka těch názorů, těch otázek je celá řada a paní Ibaňez několikrát teď zdůraznila během své odpovědi, že my především jako koňařská a jezdecká veřejnost máme velký závazek a velkou zodpovědnost vůči koní. There's one new thing from the next year, and that will be the Longines League of Nations for the 10 best equipes. Could you describe what the reaction of the equestrian community is on this project? I think there will be different reactions. There are some big nations and there are small nations.
Yes, so I mean, the reaction has been quite positive. Maybe it is because also there was a very transparent conversation with the riders, the organizers, national federations, and basically the community itself on what needed to happen to keep this very important Nations Cup at the highest level alive and relevant. So there has been conversations, and maybe that's why. Also, we got input from the jumping committee and the rest on how that format should look like. And when finally the format was approved and the venues were announced, the information that we received at headquarters was very, very positive. We're also very pleased to see that the EEF has also their series, which caters to a more, not developer, but bit intermediate level, which also is catering to another section of the riding community. So I believe the LLN, which is the Longines League of Nations, has found its place. We're very much looking forward to launching this next year. There's not a lot of time, but we are doing our very best with Longines to provide an exciting new concept for our community.
A ptal jsem se samozřejmě i na novinku od roku 2024 Longines League of Nations pro 10 nejlepších zemí. Ptal jsem se na tu reakci napříč jezdeckými zeměmi. Paní Ibaňez říká, že ta reakce byla velmi pozitivní. Přispělo k tomu samozřejmě i to, že celý ten proces probíhal poměrně transparentně a do toho vývoje formátu se zapojila celá řada různých komisí, zemí a tak dále, takže věří, že tato novinka si najde své místo. Už není moc času, uvidíme hned v tom nadcházejícím příštím roce. Každopádně je to něco, co by mělo určitě sehrát svou pozitivní roli. But speaking of next year, there are also Olympic Games in Paris, big occasion. What are the preparations at the FEI for this big event?
Well, first of all, we couldn't be happier to have the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games. As you know, we have paradressage as well in Paris next year. The preparations are going very well with the organizing committee, as well as with the contractor who is actually delivering the equestrian part, which you may know as GL Events. So we're extremely excited. Very happy to be able to have our sport hosted in Versailles. And I believe everybody's keen on seeing the best games ever.
You are mentioning Versailles. What are the expectations? It's a rather unusual menu. It should be very photogenic.
No, exactly. And for the promotion of the sport, obviously, it's excellent. Just to let you know that all tickets have been sold for equestrian, all of them. There's not a single ticket available. And we were one of the first sports included in the Olympic program that sold all their tickets. So it just shows how excited everybody is to watch our sport.
A ptal jsem se samozřejmě i na přípravy jezdeckých soutěží v rámci olympijských her příští rok v Paříži. Na straně FEI paní Ibaňez říká, že ty přípravy běží naplno a velmi úspěšně. Panuje tam velká spokojenost, mimo jiné i s tím, že pokud se bavíme o olympijských, a nejen tedy olympijských, ale i paralympijských hrách, tak jezdecké soutěže patří vůbec mezi první olympijské sporty, které mají v tuto chvíli už úplně vyprodanou diváckou kapacitu. Takže to je velký úspěch. Svědčí to o tom, že ten zájem o olympijské jezdectví je značný a samozřejmě k tomu přispívá i to místo, kde se budou jezdecké soutěže konat, Versailles, to bude velká věc a mělo by to přispět i podle Ibaňez k další propagaci jezdeckých sportů, protože to bude velmi, velmi atraktivní. We'll close now, but my last question is what are the other big projects FEI is approaching and probably that were mentioned on this year's General Assembly in Prague?
Other projects that we're approaching, so again, as I mentioned before, the social license to operate is on our #1 agenda. Delivering and doing great performances and seeing the great performances of our European friends and other nations across the world at the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games. This year, too, we still have in store many different events that will qualify for the Olympic Games. This does not concern Europe, but they are very important as well. We have the Pan American Games that will take place at the end of October, which they're actually calling their Hunger Games, because there are many teams there that still have to qualify for the Olympic Games. And then next year, really, it is the delivery of the Longines League of Nations, the launch of that very important series. We are also, of course, be concentrating a lot on the youth and our sports forum next year. So there's plenty to do, and there will always be plenty to do at the FEI and also within the EEF.
Ptal jsem se ještě na další témata nebo projekty pro tu nejbližší dobu, které byly zmíněny v rámci tohoto dnešního generálního zasedání. A paní Ibaňez ještě jednou zopakovala, že skutečně to, o čem jsme se bavili, byly ty hlavní body, ať už jde o welfare, ať už jde o udržitelnost, ať už jde o League of Nations, olympijské hry a tak dále, ale připomněla, že samozřejmě jsou ještě i některé další velké akce, které se netýkají Evropy, ale mají podobnou prestiž, například panamerické hry na konci října a tak dále. Thank you very much for your time and best of luck for all the projects.
Thank you very much.